the record. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to the third of these Friday morning briefings. If it's the first time for someone and you'd like to see previous ones, we are keeping the recordings of these mostly going up on our website, which I think is still called Stroke TV, but I'm going to make a list of all the links so I can send those to you easily. And thank you, Eli, for agreeing to be recorded for those who have booked for this morning but can't be with us. In case anybody's on the call that doesn't know me, I'm Judy Trotter. I head up adult education at JW3, which I've always said is the best job in the world. And while these nearly 3 weeks have been horrendous, I at least have had something to do because we went into as much overdrive as anyone else in order to be able to deal with the horror in any way at all, being so far away. We had the start of our autumn term and we went ahead with that as planned, and brought in some wonderful new students. I see Jenny's just joined us online as well. And then programmed on top of that. So we have done panels, we have done lectures, we have taken our regular Israeli lectures and changed their topics so they were relevant. All of these are online and all of them are really brilliant and worth listening to if you haven't already done so. And this weekend, and when I say weekend, because it's a Jewish weekend, so it's from 11 o'clock today until we close at around 4, I think, 3 maybe. And on Sunday, we have the empty Shabbat table installation. If you don't know about it, if you just put it in whatever you follow on social media or on the web, you'll see it's an amazing group of women have put this together for the hostages. Each chair has the name of the hostage. And those of you who were in the building yesterday will be amazed at how the piazza has changed. And if I can, during this, I'll take a photo and upload it so you can see it. But please do come if you're in the area. Obviously, for some people, that's more difficult. Anyway, on to the reason we're here is Eli. Thank you so much for agreeing to join us, Eli. Many of you will remember our keynote speaker from February, where he spoke at our annual Spyro tribute event. And I'm hoping, Nitsa has joined us. I'm so pleased you joined us, Nitsa, and my huge apologies for leaving it till the last moment. But Eli reminded me, and much as I thought about it during the week, I'm glad you're with us now. So, Eli, I know this isn't an easy ask, but it has proved so important for us to all get together, even on Zoom, and to connect with Israel and to all of you in Israel. So, thank you for agreeing to be with us. Eli's happy to take questions, but the way we do it for this briefing, because it's short, and I'm sorry, I feel like I'm talking longer than usual, is please put your question in the chat. And then I will ask Eli the questions, and we'll get through as many as we can, dependent on how long we have. So Eli will talk for 15, 20 minutes, and that will give us a good 10 minutes or so for questions. So Eli, what is uppermost in your mind this morning? And perhaps you can sketch out for us what you and those around you are feeling. I thank you so much for doing this, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Judy, and thank you everyone for joining us. It's really, I see it as a mission. We need to talk to our fellow Jews all around the world because we need your help these days. I want to share with you some of the feelings that I have had since the horrible day of October 7th. I'm not a politician, as you know, I'm not a diplomat nor a general. And furthermore, I'm not going to talk to you as a professor or a brain scientist. I'm going to speak to you today just as a Jew, a citizen of Israel who loves his country. The first feeling or thought, it's hard to tell the difference these days. Some of it is really rational, some of it is just gut feeling. So the first one is that we must admit the sense of shock and failure, that we were again surprised and caught unprepared, even though we knew exactly who we are dealing with across the border. For me, it's a déjà vu. a feeling I experienced as a soldier in the Yom Kippur War 50 years ago. But at the same time, I also have faith and hope that just as we recovered and overcame from the trauma of Yom Kippur War, we will recover today as well. We will prevail. I have no doubt of that. So that's the first shock and surprise. The second thought or feeling is that of despair or disappointment. I see myself as a very liberal person who is willing to make major concessions for peace with our neighbors. I wanted to believe that the bad guys, the Hamas, are the minority, and the majority of citizens and civilians in Gaza Strip want to live in peace with us. But the sights of the October 7th show that the picture is much more complex. After the terrorists, murderers penetrated the settlements and the kibbutzim around Gaza, in the first wave, and massacred innocent people, butchered babies and elderly, raped young girls. There was a second wave that people don't talk much about it, of civilians who waited outside the fence for the Hamas people to do their job. Yeah, what kind of job? And then entered to the settlements and kibbutzim and looted what they could, stealing wallets and credit cards from dead bodies, stealing equipment such as tractors. They killed with axes, innocent 5 foreign workers. So that's really heartbreaking, because we assume that the people, the ordinary civilian, would not do such a thing, because these are the people we want to make peace with. And it must be remembered that many of these people, tens of thousands of people from Gaza, entered every day to Israel to work. So many of these people were employed by the kibbutzim and settlements for decades, and they knew where to go and to look for things they wanted to steal and loot. They knew that the people of these settlements, including, by the way, the Lifshitz couple, who were kidnapped and whose wife was released a few days ago, many of them transported patients from Gaza every day for chemotherapy, for dialysis treatment in Israeli hospital every day. Actually, one of the photos was that on the refrigerator there was a list of who is going when to pick up patients from Gaza to Israeli hospitals. So in this way, I'm asking, is this the way to say thank you for all we provided them with salaries, with food? Definitely they earned much more money in Israel than they never could have earned in Gaza. So the question is, and that's what really troubles me, is how can we believe or trust them? How can we make peace with them now? So it's really one of the most difficult things, because I think most of Israel do want peace and do want to help these people. But when you see that the civilians, we cannot talk more about what the Hamas did. But when I saw an elderly with a cane jumping and trying to search for things to steal, I thought to myself, oh my God, are these people ready for peace? Or they just have one thing in mind, to destroy us and to kill us? The third feeling I have is the pride in our people in Israel and all over the world. These people what didn't they say about them? I mean, recently, especially with the reform and the demonstrations and everything, people were saying that we are divided, that Israel is divided into leftists and rightists, supporting Bibi and against Bibi, religious and secular, Ashkenazim and Sephardim, periphery and center. But in times of crisis, everyone unites. Does unbelievable things, not only volunteering for fighting and rescuing people from all the dangerous places, but also civilians volunteering. I mean, it's every day we see videos of amazing people, ordinary people. Store owners donated the content of the store, clothes, furniture, equipment, and everything that is needed to the new Jewish refugees who had to evacuate their burned homes. People volunteered to transport people and soldiers from one place to another across the country. People from the high tech volunteered and developed during these 3 weeks software to help Chevra Kadisha to identify faces of missing person and dead people, to match them with picture that the family provided and to help with the identification. Restaurant owners cooked for soldiers and evacuees. I must tell you, one of the moving stories that I saw was a restaurant who was not kosher and wanted very much to cook for soldiers, but they were not allowed because there are strict rules in the Israeli army to provide only kosher food. So the owner said immediately, okay, tell me what I need to do to make my restaurant kosher. And immediately the same day, he koshered his restaurant just to be able to donate and cook and prepare prepare food for the Israeli soldiers. Jews around the world are raising money for Israel, sending necessary equipment, and it's very much appreciated. We need that. I mean, we have to thank at this opportunity also the United Nations and other European countries like England and Germany for their support. Unfortunately, I mean, maybe you want to talk about it, you want to ask me about it, the distinction between what the government is saying and versus what the street is saying. It's really unbelievable. And the fourth feeling which I want to share with you is the amazement and the confusion. I'm not sure if it's a naivety or even worse, it's a hypocrisy of the world. Is it so difficult? Is it so hard to distinguish today between who is good and who is evil, who is good and who is bad? The enlightened liberal world does not understand yet, and hopefully soon they will, that Israel's war against Hamas is actually the war of the liberal civilization, civilized world against the world of fanatics and barbarians who have not respected human life, do not respect human life. Israel at the front line of these fights between civilizations. And if the world does not come to our side, this war will knock, if it's not actually already knocking, on their doors in Paris and in London, Berlin, or Copenhagen. I'm sure that you all have, I've visited many times, I have family in Paris, and Jews are simply afraid. Not only Jews, even the police are really afraid of entering some regions, areas of the capital of Paris. We need the support of the world, Jews and non-Jews. We need your support in our just struggle to explain to the world who is the good here and who is the bad, which turns out to be not so clear even at prestigious universities like Harvard and Columbia, which is again hard to believe. And I'm saying that because even sometimes living in the US for many years and studying there and doing sabbaticals in the US, and so many Jewish professors, it's unbelievable the self-hatred sometimes. And like it's a bon ton now to hate Israel, to blame Israel for everything. In a way, it's a new version of anti-Semitism. But after saying all this, and despite this terrible event, which is far from being over yet, I want to remain optimistic. I want to remain liberal. And I'm sure that will prevail, even if it would take time. So really, thank you for this support and this opportunity to talk to you. And thank you so much for your help and support. Am Israel Chai.
Thank you so much for speaking so well, as always, Eli. One question I wanted to ask was you're directing the Rehabilitation Centre for Veterans after traumatic brain injury. Now, obviously, a lot of the injuries that are coming in at the moment may not be coming to you, but presumably your work is ongoing from before. How has this conflict affected your work?
Well, the clinical work is very much affected. I mean, our veterans are not allowed to come to the center. So we try, every single employee of the rehab center is contacting every single day, almost everyone. I mean, every one of our people, our veterans, is contacted at least by 2, 3, 4 staff members, talking to the family, talking to them, and even visiting, making home visits. So we try to do some programs. Luckily, if that's a word, I mean, we prepare for that when we dealt with the COVID. So we had programs out to engage them in all kinds of activities, even at home. So we're now using the same things we learned at the COVID time. And so we try to keep them busy as much as possible. We try to talk to them, and if possible, even visiting, making home visits. And because not only them, they need help, their parents or spouses or children need help. So we're trying to give support, to provide support to the entire surrounding of these veterans. But it's difficult. Some of them are traumatized. Some of them, you know, they're post-trauma, and all these sirens bring back a lot of terrible thoughts. They don't sleep well. They have, it's difficult. They have nightmares. We hear about that. So we have psychiatrists that adjusting the medical treatment accordingly.
So we had Jonathan Reinhold last week from Bar Ilan, and he was saying that they're doing similar follow-ups with all of their students because the universities have not reopened, and there's so much worry about how we support. Well, we know that from here, just with post-COVID, how difficult it was to support people that are going through any kind of trauma. Are you still working with the students at the university as well?
Yeah. We have to remember, I mean, in Israel, because of the Jewish holidays, the academic year starts usually about 2 weeks after Sukkot. So it was supposed to reopen or start about 2 weeks ago. And first it was postponed to November 5th. But just 2 days ago, there was a decision made that it is still postponed to December 3rd now. So first of all, the academic year is postponed. And the reason is simple, because about a third of the staff and the students are mobilized. And not only that, even those that are not mobilized, their spouse is mobilized. So they have to stay at home with the children because not all the schools are reopened. So about half of the people simply cannot come. So even doing it virtually via Zoom, it's complicated. So at the moment, the decision is to postpone. But what I'm trying to do is a kind of, if you wish, a kind of escapism or being busy and being occupied. So I'm contacting all my research students, my PhD students, my master's students, and trying to encourage them, if they're at home, to keep reading material and to have meetings with me and discussing their project, analyzing data. So I'm trying to keep them busy as much as possible because I think it's therapeutic. And so definitely we're in touch on a personal basis with everyone. Now these days it's much easier. I remember when I was a soldier in Yom Kippur, so I had to send a letter and the letter arrived 3 weeks after I arrived home. So, but now with the cell phones and everything, it's much easier to keep ongoing contact with the soldiers.
Yes, one of the things we've been commenting on that is, we're all set up for Zoom. Putting these events on was not as difficult as it was in 2020, and yeah. So, a question from Anthony, which asks or says, I think Israel should show that the bombing of Gaza is aimed at Hamas, and I know one of those answers might be this is difficult, but he feels that it can be proved by demonstrating the massive explosions of ammunition in the civilian buildings. Do you think that's possible?
I know, and I can tell you from really firsthand. My son is an intelligence officer and is now mobilized, that Israel is doing everything. The Israeli army, IDF, is doing everything, probably more than any other army in the world ever, to avoid casualties from people which are not involved, innocent citizens, and by even ringing people to their cell phones, asking them to evacuate, to leave, even that we know that by doing that, maybe some of the Hamas terrorists escape as well. But we're trying to do our utmost to avoid collateral damage. So, as you know, Israel begged the people of Gaza to move to the south. Then they are safe there, and there we allowed medications and food and water, and asked the people from the north of Gaza, which is the area which is really in touch or in the border with Israel. But you know that who prevents? There are still about 300,000 people in the north of Gaza. The Hamas is shooting at them, blocking the roads, not allowing them to go to the south. Look what Israel is doing. Israel is to avoid civilian casualties. They evacuated in the north and in the south people, tens of thousands of people, refugees now, in all kinds of private homes and hotels and you name it. So yes, we based on intelligence, we're targeting only apartments and houses, because the Hamas would have the entrance to their tunnels at the living room of innocent people. So we warn them before, and then we destroy the building, because that's either they're hiding ammunition. I don't know if you saw a few days ago, there was a massive attack, and all the roads collapsed. Why? Because underneath the roads, there are tunnels in which the Hamas people are hiding. So we need to protect ourselves. I mean, the situation in Gaza is not going to be the same. I mean, we must destroy Hamas as an armed force, and unfortunately in war there are casualties. But I can assure you that Israeli army and Israel in general are doing whatever they can without risking lives of soldiers, but they do whatever is possible to avoid collateral damage.
So of course we that know that the warnings are given now, and the trouble is, however good Zoom is and the connections, we also have social media, which can quickly spread misinformation as quickly as information can be spread, and that is
we had the example of bombing the hospital in Gaza, which was definitely by Hamas, by the jihad actually, and Israel were very careful. The IDF spokesman say, I don't want to answer now if it's us or not. It took us 2 hours to check it thoroughly, and even the Pentagon supported our conclusion. But we didn't want, in the meanwhile, in these 2-3 hours that Israel was thoroughly investigating, because they didn't want to say something which is not true, in the meanwhile, people all over, I mean, televisions and newspapers already I talked about thousands or hundreds of people murdered by Israel, which obviously was not the case.
And if and hopefully when Israel is successful with Hamas in Gaza, what would you see coming afterwards? How would the infrastructure work without them? Or who would take it over?
I know that for sure Israel doesn't want to rule Gaza. I mean, that's also, I must say in parentheses, look, I mean, for people like myself, which I think most of the Israelis want peace and willing to pay very heavy price to evacuate settlements. Look what happened when we evacuated the Gaza Strip. Look what happened when we evacuated the strip that we were holding in Lebanon. These places became a terrorist basis. I mean, so what would encourage us to let go in the West Bank? Because we know once we withdraw from there, look what happened. They become again Gaza, just like we're seeing now. But I'm 100% sure that Israel does not want to rule again Gaza. That's absolutely for sure. We want to that disarm Hamas and definitely control it in terms of probably we're going to take back, I don't know, I'm not an expert, but what's called the entrance to Rafah, to the border with Egypt. We must control it because through there a lot of ammunition came into Israel. And I think at the first stage probably there were kind of an international force with the UN, again with the UN, after what the General Secretary of the UN said. I mean, I don't know if he's anyway, if he is the candidate to be a fairer broker here. But anyway, we'll try to have an international force to manage for short term, and then I hope that the Palestinian Authority will take over back, the Gaza, the control of the Gaza Strip.
Thank you. We're nearly at the end. Eli, that was beautifully done. Thank you so much. All of these add to the wealth of information we're being given that helps us also have conversations outside this group. And JW3 is all about the conversation and sharing knowledge, as well as coming together and being a community. So thank you. We will continue these Friday briefings, and the next couple of weeks we've got Professor David Newman, who many of you will have heard here in past years, Sarah Freeman, who also works with trauma and PTSD, and if you have particular topics, subjects that you would like me to ask any of my forthcoming speakers to cover, please either email myself or reply to the email you received this morning with the Zoom link on. There is a specific page on our website that gives you all the information on upcoming events like these around Israel. They are on our general website as well, but we thought we'd collect them together to make it easier. And please feel free to either contact myself or our box office downstairs. So Eli, thank you so much again, and it's so nice to see you and your face, and we wish you and your family to be well and safe, and to keep in touch, and maybe we'll invite you back in a few months' time and see where we're going with it.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I think what you're doing is a fantastic thing, and thank you for your support. Your support is needed and necessary and important more than ever these days. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eli. Take care. Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Take care. Bye-bye.